When businesses matter, the governments think wrong and do wrong frequently. They think right and do right a few times, and sometimes they think right but do horribly wrong, like the draft e-commerce policy driven by India a few days ago. The government wants locally owned or locally managed e-commerce success stories. That's right thinking. But the draft policy goes about this spectacularly wrong. If this is the final policy, India won't get what it should and will lose whatever it has. What India's e-commerce market has is plenty of foreign investment. What it should have while keeping foreign investments or investors interested are locally owned and managed competitors to firm back with outside capital. Given this, the draft is really smart on only one count: the suggestion that the startups can issue shares with differential voting rights. The aim is to provide Indian founders of a successful online venture more control over companies they have built, even if the foreign investors have put in the most of the capital. So a share owned by a founder will carry more weight than, say, a share owned by a Chinese venture capital firm. Shareholding structures that restrict voting rights of foreign investors are not unusual. Some hugely successful startups in the US and China, the world's two largest internet economies, have shareholding rules that allows the founders with minority stock to call the shots. Will large investors lose interest if they can't be the boss of the company they put money in? Not at all. As is the case in China and the US, India can attract the large investors in e-commerce under rules that favor and more control for the local entrepreneurship, provided the rules on the investments are potentially high. So that was good thinking, right? Now for the really bad bits of the draft policy. China, North Korea and Cuba-like socialism type restrictions on price strategies, a completely and needless additional layer of the regulations. Silly does and don'ts on what can be sold and how, etc. etc. Space for this column is limited and silly suggestions are about in the draft, so we will pick just an example to demonstrate our arguments. Take the recommendation that deep discounting, selling goods really cheap, must be thoroughly discouraged. This seems aimed principally at pricing strategies of Amazon India and Walmart-owned Flipkart, the two American giants of India. Of course, Amazon India and the foreign investor-controlled Flipkart use capital available from abroad to sell stuff really cheap in India. And of course, that's one of the big reasons they control nearly 3/4 of India's online market. But even locally backed and locally managed online shops would want to do the same thing. Deep discounting is a universal e-commerce strategy. It's employed to win customers' loyalty more in countries and many markets where online commerce is still a small part of the overall retail in India and larger countries. India's online retail is just 3% of the total retail sales with the brick and mortars, or the shops which we call. Therefore, a policy that targets discounting will actually harm future local entrepreneurship, investors and FDI, and also India will lose whatever it has, and India might go between 50 to 60 years when British was ruling. People who made this recommendation forgot basic economics, which is the government intervention in pricing, especially in the consumer market pricing, always end up disastrously. The local startups won't flourish if they, as well as Flipkart and Amazon, can't sell products. A smarter way to level the playing field against the deep-pocketed foreign investors who can afford deep discounting is to have a policy that allows the firm to offer steep price cuts only when all or most of their capital is locally sourced. This will truly discourage the capital dumping from abroad without ridiculous interference in firm pricing strategies. These are just suggestions from economic experts and us. They are free to offer a deep discount, but the capital deployed in Amazon India or the Flipkart must be raised locally. They will compete with the local firms for capital, and they may actually attract more investor interest, but that's wholly fair. Amazon or Walmart won't like it, but they will have to balance their laws of capital dumping option against giving up on one of the world's most exciting and existing online marketplaces of India. That's smart policy making, but if the policy comes to life, Amazon and Flipkart may rule out of India within 3 to 5 years with great loss, and no, there won't be any FDI as of selling now. That FDI or the foreign investments won't be flourishing or coming into India or won't be going out of India anytime soon. And to the final note, there are many shoppers and even many grocery shoppers have websites and e-commerce where they delivery from their own hometown to other states and other districts. So do they come in this draft or they don't? Indian economy grew at a 5-quarter high of 7.2% in October-December 2017 period, reflecting overall recovery due to the good show with agriculture, manufacturing, constructions and certain services. The economy is expected to grow at 6.6% in the current fiscal ending March 31 as per the second advanced estimates of the Central Statistics Office or the CSO, compared to 7.1% in 2016-17. India might have regained the status of the world's fastest growing major economy in the October-December quarter of 2017, driven by the higher government spending and pickup in the manufacturing and the services. If the Indian government announces if there was 6.9% growth, that would top China's 6.8% annual pace for October-December 2017. The last time India had a faster growth rate was in the final 3 months of 2016. India is expected to improvement on its 6.3% growth in July-September of 2017 comes as it's the manufacturing and the service sector. After muted actively until 2017 of September, the signs of pickup in economic growth are starting to appear, said Aditya Nair, the principal economist of ICRA, the India arm of rating agencies Moody's. A strong gross domestic product reading could lift the domestic shares and boost the rupee, which has been Asia's second weakest currency this year, losing about 1.6% against the dollar. The GDP data could help the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, who is facing the criticism over the mounting bad loans of the state banks and $1.77 billion fraud of state lender Punjab National Bank, the biggest in the country's banking history. Last week, Prime Minister Modi told the industrialists that his government, which got twin balance sheet problem resulting from bad debt in the banks and many businesses, was determined to put the economic back on the higher growth trajectory. Modi is trying to accelerate the growth through higher rate of state spending, including $32.36 billion for recapitalization of the state banks, beset with mounting bad loans on nearly $148 billion. He has stepped up the spending on infrastructures and welfare projects to boost the growth ahead of national election in 2019. This was widen the fiscal deficit for the current fiscal year ending in March 2017 to 2018 3.5% of the GDP instead of the earlier projected 3.2%. In November, the Moody's raised India's investment grade rating one notch, the rating agency first upgraded in nearly 14 years. In the International Monetary Fund forecast, India's growth could reach 7.4% in 2018 and 7.8% in 2019, overtaking the rates projected for China of 6.5% and 6.4% respectively. But it doesn't mean that India will be getting jobs. It will be always jobless until it has to do something with the FDI and to deal with GST and the imported tax with hike. The world's 7th largest economy, which grew at more than 9% a year from 2005 to 2008, is still far from firing all the cylinders. The domestic demand and the private investments remain the weak. Urjit Patel, the governor of the Reserve Bank of India, earlier this month said that the economic recovery was at the nascent stage and called for the cautious approach. The central bank has kept its key rate unchanged since the 25 basis point cut in August 2017. India's investment rate fell across 30% of GDP in 2017 from a peak of 40% in 2011. The New Delhi is worried that the higher global crude oil price poses a major risk to its efforts for regained growth momentum, as this could hit the domestic investment and push up the consumer price inflations. So what do you think of India possessed to win back the fastest growing economic title from China, becoming the #1 economic and the fastest growing economic in this year and the next year of 2019? Will this happen by this the government announces, or will these are just the marketing stunt pulled by the BJP ruled Modi government for just to make sure the upcoming elections to be won by 2019? Please post your comments below, and if you like this video, please give a thumbs up and follow us on social networks and subscribe to our channel. And thanks for watching. This is WC Daily. Think big, think different. Bye.